All right, guys, now that the oil change is done, the next most important part or step, in my opinion, is to one, clean the chain, clean the motorcycle, and then we'll go ahead and find out if we're within spec on our chain. Because usually after the first 600 miles, you might not still be within spec. What we'll need here is some kind of chain cleaning tool. These could be bought at Cycle Gear, REVZILLA, wherever. I will link them down below. And the thing that I use is a kerosene. To me, this is cheap. It's easy and it works really, really well. And then I just put it in a little squirt bottle so that it is easier to do. So we're gonna go ahead and put her in neutral, make sure our tire can spin, and then we're going to liberally spray this stuff all over our chain. And this is a very, very good cleaner. Now there's many ways to do this. I'm showing you guys the right way today, but I always do it the wrong way, where I actually start up the bike, put it in first gear, and I let her spin a little bit and just control by clutch to make sure that I don't get the engine and wheel and chain spinning up too fast. But like I said, that's dangerous. That's the wrong way to do it. And it is really, really easy to get this stuck inside of the sprocket, and you'll bust off chunks of this because it'll just zip right in there and potentially damage the bike. So you do need to be very, very careful. So we will go ahead and just give this thing a nice little cleaning, and I'll spin the brush around and get the outside as well. And then I like to spray it down one more time to get most of the gunk off. Now, depending on how dirty it is, it's also nice to clean the actual sprockets as well. Now, obviously that's easier to do on the rear than it is the front, because you'd actually have to take off the plastic plate to do that. But I'm gonna go ahead and say we are good with that. And the next thing I go straight into is washing the bike. Now, I never leave the key in while I'm washing the bike. I always like to make sure that the bike is nice and well wet prior to washing. And I just use a regular car automotive, honestly. I think this certain one I use has a little bit of wax in it, but we also want to make sure we clean all this off the chain as much as we can. We do not want this stuff breaking down the lube we're actually gonna put on the bike. So we'll get as much off as we possibly can, and now we'll just wash. And to me, it's important to get all the bugs off that you possibly can while washing, and not with a microfiber cloth, as in my opinion, that's how you start scratching the paint on these things. Paint on these plastic bikes are not exactly amazing. Washing to get off the bugs is the best method for sure. And I like to go in quadrants. That was basically just the first front end. And I'll try and keep the bike wet and all the soap off the whole time I go, so that it doesn't dry up and look like crap. Avoid some of them water spots if possible, obviously. There's front, right side. Get the left side done. And last would be the center. Gauge cluster, dashboard, controls, and all that fun jazz. Quick, easy, she's done. And then the last thing I do before I get it inside and wax it is try and get as much water off as I can. And now it could just be easily dried and or taken inside and waxed, but we still need to lube the chain. So I am gonna cheat a little bit. I live on a dirt road, so going ahead and taking this for a ride to dry off the chain is just gonna get more dirt and debris all over it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do what I tell you guys not to do, which is to start up the bike. Put it in first gear, hold the clutch, and then slightly let it go. And use the blower to get all the water off the chain. And the chain lube I like to use is this chain guard. It doesn't leave as much gunk all over, so I prefer this one. We'll get her back in neutral. And all we're really doing here is trying to get the seals of the chain. We're not trying to lube the entire chain. So I'll run it around one time, getting it on the left side seal, and then one more time getting it on the right side seal. All right. And then there's probably way too much all over it, so I always go back around with a rag and try and clean some of it off the outside of the chain so it's not flinging all over the place. All right, last thing to do, get her back in the garage, get her completely dry, and then we'll wax it up real quick. All right, now that we're back in the shop, what I like to use is some kind of ceramic detail. I've used quite a few of them, and this one I've kind of liked the most. So I'll link it down below if you're interested. It does help with cleaning because it is more of a lighter fluid and it's not like a paste. And I pretty much saturate almost everything to force myself to wipe down the whole dang bike. And pretty much I'll do this twice. Once with this wax and then once without, just to make sure that any of the possible streaks are gone. I use this on everything, the windscreen, the mirrors, the glass. I'll even use it on the dashboard to give a little extra protection. But in my opinion, this is just keeping a light coat of something on the motorcycle that could potentially help get the bugs off, basically, is kind of what I think stuff would help doing. Besides shine it up, make it a little bit better looking. All right, now I've done one pass, I'll do another one with a dry cloth just to get rid of the streaks if there was too much wax sprayed on, basically. Can's gotta look good, that's for sure. All right, so now the last thing I like to do is verify the chain, make sure it's within specifications. So you can see here, it's telling us exactly what we need for our chain, that we want the center and that we also want the part in the chain that has the most slack, which is definitely very, very hard to tell. I've rarely been able to tell that on motorcycles. Some have you do this, some don't. And maybe around there is maybe the sloppiest, I guess. So I personally like to use metric when it comes to checking my chain, because to me it's just easier to read the millimeters over the whatever inch or inch and a quarter or whatever. So what we need on this chain is in between 25 and 35 millimeters. From 0 to basically 35 millimeters is an acceptable chain slack. So what it wants is the bottom of the chain to the top of the chain. So we're measuring basically the bottom of the chain here at 0 down to the top of the chain. And technically mine was right there at 30. And also you want to be dead in between both sprockets. So you're choosing the center point, the softest point of the chain, the center point of the chain, and you're going to go and hold the top end at 0 and bottom end we don't want to exceed past 35 on the top of the chain, and I am right at 30. So technically I don't need to adjust this chain, which is really, really cool. Now the manual also says to do this on its side stand, so we'll go ahead and prove that I don't think it matters whether it's side stand or not. So now with the bike in the same softer chain piece on the side stand, there's the bottom piece of the chain, there's the top piece of the chain, 30, 35. So yeah, maybe it matters a little bit. Side stand was roughly 5 millimeters off. But either way, I am within specs on this motorcycle. I'm good with that. The next time I check it, if it needs to be adjusted, I'll go ahead and make a video for you guys showing you how to actually adjust the chain to the proper specs. So that's pretty much all we have for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.